The late afternoon sun dipped low over the rolling vineyards of Napa Valley, casting golden hues across the sprawling estate where my sister's wedding was set to unfold in just 3 days. Tuesday, June 17, 2025. I'm Elena Brooks, 30, and as I stood at the edge of the vineyard, clutching an invitation that felt more like a summons, my stomach churned with a mix of dread and resolve. My sister, Natalie, had invited me to her wedding to Daniel, the man who'd once been my fiancé, a betrayal that still stung 2 years later. My parents, Margaret and Robert Brooks, had sided with her, dismissing my dreams as frivolous while praising her social climb. They didn't know I'd built a billion-dollar tech firm in the shadows, and this wedding might be my chance to settle the score, on my terms. Before I dive into this story, let me ask, have you ever been betrayed by someone close, only to rise above their expectations? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and if you faced a similar challenge, hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of triumph. Let's begin. Growing up in a well-to-do suburb of Seattle, the Brooks family was a study in contrasts. My father, Robert, was a respected cardiologist, his name synonymous with elite medical circles. My mother, Margaret, was a former model turned charity organizer, her events drawing philanthropists and politicians. Our home, a sleek modern mansion with floor-to-ceiling windows, was a showcase of their success. Natalie, my younger sister by 2 years, was the golden child, beautiful, charismatic, and destined for a life of glamour. At 28, she'd already landed a high-profile PR job in San Francisco, her engagement to Daniel, a tech executive, a coup my parents celebrated. Then there was me, the quiet one, the dreamer. While Natalie dazzled at pageants and parties, I was drawn to the hum of computers, the logic of algorithms, the thrill of solving problems no one else saw. At 14, I built my first website, a forum for local gamers, using a second-hand laptop in my room. By 16, I was freelancing, coding e-commerce platforms for small businesses. My parents didn't notice. "Elena's tinkering again," Mom would say, her smile tight, as if my passion was a childish phase. Dad was sterner. "Tech's a gamble," he'd warn. "Brooks build careers, not code." The kitchen became my sanctuary, not for cooking but for late-night coding sessions with my high school friend, Liam, who'd sneak me energy drinks and brainstorm ideas. "You've got a mind for this," he'd say, his enthusiasm infectious. "Don't let them box you in." His belief fueled me, but it couldn't shield me from family dinners where Natalie's achievements, cheerleading captain, prom queen, were toasted, and my interests were overlooked. "Elena will find her calling," Mom would tell guests, her tone implying I was adrift. By high school graduation, I was the family's quiet disappointment, my tech passion a footnote to their legacy. To appease them, I enrolled at the University of Washington, studying business administration. A path they approved but never embraced. Secretly, I majored in computer science, spending nights in labs developing a platform to streamline supply chain logistics, inspired by a local retailer's inefficiencies. I called it FlowSync, launching a beta version in my junior year with Liam's help. It gained traction, earning me $10,000 in freelance contracts, enough to cover tuition. My double life continued until senior year, when a Silicon Valley incubator spotted FlowSync. In March 2017, they offered mentorship and $500,000 in seed funding, but it meant moving to California and committing full-time. I stood in our Seattle living room, heart pounding, and told my parents. The silence was suffocating. "This is reckless," Dad said, his voice cold. "You're throwing away a stable future." Mom's eyes narrowed. "If you chase this, you're on your own, Elena. No support." Natalie, home from a PR gig, laughed. "You think you're a startup queen? Good luck surviving on ramen." I left that night with a suitcase, my savings, and a dream, my family's rejection a scar that drove me forward. They cut me off, no trust fund, no calls, no holidays. Seattle faded, replaced by a cramped San Francisco apartment where I poured myself into FlowSync. The next 3 years were a grind, coding marathons, investor pitches, sleepless nights. Rejections piled up. One VC called my platform too niche. But I persisted, hiring Liam as my CTO, and by 2020, FlowSync secured a contract with a major retailer, boosting our user base to 100,000. In 2022, we raised $50 million, and by late 2023, FlowSync went public, valued at $1.2 billion. At 29, I was CEO, my face on TechCrunch's Rising Stars list, but I kept my success from my family. They thought I was struggling, maybe waitressing or freelancing. I wanted it that way. Their approval had once defined me, but now I sought vindication on my terms. In early 2024, Natalie announced her engagement to Daniel, my ex-fiancé. We'd dated for 2 years, from 2019 to 2021, until he ended it, citing different paths. The breakup shattered me, but I buried myself in work, unaware he'd soon date Natalie. By mid-2024, their relationship was public, my parents overjoyed. "She's secured a future," Mom said, ignoring my pain. I cut contact, focusing on FlowSync's growth, which hit $1.5 billion by December 2024. The wedding invitation arrived on May 20, 2025, a lavish card with gold embossing, set for June 17 at a Napa Valley vineyard. "Reconnect with family," it urged. I hesitated, the wound of Daniel's betrayal and Natalie's theft raw. But FlowSync's success, now nearing $2 billion with a new AI integration, gave me leverage. On June 10, I RSVP'd, booking a flight from San Francisco to Napa, determined to face them. The vineyard, with its sprawling acres and luxury accommodations, was a fitting stage for my reveal. Now, on Saturday, June 14, 2025, at 4:30 p.m., I stood at the vineyard's edge, the invitation crumpled in my pocket. My outfit was deliberate: black blazer, white blouse, tailored pants, elegant but understated, a nod to my roots without flaunting wealth. My dark hair was in a sleek bun, practical yet polished. The estate buzzed with preparations: floral arrangements, string quartet rehearsals, staff in crisp uniforms. I recognized faces: cousins, family friends, their voices tinged with privilege. Mom spotted me first, her pearl necklace catching the light. "Elena," she called, her smile practiced. She air-kissed my cheeks, her perfume sharp. "You came. We weren't sure." Her eyes scanned me, calculating. "You look well," she said, meaning I didn't fit her fragile ideal. Dad followed, his gray hair impeccable, his handshake curt. "Good to see you, Elena. Let's keep this pleasant." His tone was a warning. Natalie approached, her wedding gown a vision of lace, Daniel beside her in a tailored suit. "Elena," she said, her voice sweet but edged. "Thanks for coming. It means a lot." Her smile didn't reach her eyes. Daniel nodded, his gaze avoiding mine. "Good to see you," he mumbled, the familiarity a knife. My parents beamed, proud of their golden couple, oblivious to my pain. The crowd shifted, and Aunt Lydia, Mom's sister, whispered to a cousin. "Elena's back," she said, loud enough for me to hear. "Wonder how she scraped by." Laughter followed, sharp and cutting. My chest tightened, but I forced a smile. This was the Brooks way: status was everything, and I was a shadow. They didn't know FlowSync's board was meeting tomorrow, June 15, to approve a $500 million expansion. Dinner was announced, and we moved to a long table under a canopy, set with crystal and silver. I took a seat near the end, beside Cousin Mia, who offered a shy smile. The first course arrived: truffle-infused risotto, its aroma rich. Mom raised her glass. "To Natalie and Daniel," she said, "and to our family's future." Glasses clinked, but their eyes skipped me. The risotto was perfect, but it tasted like betrayal. The wedding loomed, and I knew it would test my resolve. But with FlowSync's success, I was ready to turn the tables. The Napa Valley vineyard glowed under the fading Saturday sun, the canopy over the long dinner table casting soft shadows as the second course, grilled salmon with lemon herb sauce, was served on Sunday, June 15, 2025, at 6 p.m. I, Elena Brooks, 30, sat near the end, my black blazer a shield against the unease rippling through me. The wedding, now just 2 days away on Tuesday, June 17, loomed like a storm on the horizon. My sister Natalie's engagement to Daniel, my ex-fiancé, had reopened old wounds, and my parents, Margaret and Robert, had welcomed her triumph while sidelining me. They didn't know I'd built FlowSync, a billion-dollar tech firm, and I was letting their assumptions fester, biding my time for a revelation that would shift everything. The salmon was flawless, its aroma mingling with the vineyard's earthy scent, but my family barely noticed, too engrossed in their own narratives. Natalie, radiant in a rehearsal dinner dress, leaned toward Daniel, their laughter a stark contrast to the ache in my chest. Mom raised her glass, her pearl necklace catching the light. "To Natalie and Daniel," she said, her voice warm. "A union that strengthens our family." The clink of crystal echoed, but their eyes skipped me, a silent exclusion that stung. Aunt Lydia, Mom's sister, turned to me, her tone dripping with false concern. "Elena, you've been so quiet. How's life in wherever you're living now?" Her smile was a barb, implying I was a drifter. The table's attention shifted, forks pausing. I set down my fork, meeting her gaze. "I'm in San Francisco," I said evenly. "Working on a project that's keeping me busy." "Project?" Thomas, my cousin and a venture capitalist, chuckled. "What, another freelance gig? Tech's a tough grind, Elena. You holding up?" His question was laced with pity, assuming I was scraping by. Liam, my CTO and guest, seated beside me, gave a subtle nod, his presence a quiet support. I'd invited him to the wedding as a buffer, unaware he'd become a witness to this. "I'm managing," I replied, my voice steady. Managing was an understatement. FlowSync's AI integration had just secured a $200 million contract with a logistics giant, pushing our valuation past $1.8 billion. But I held back, letting their skepticism grow. Mom tilted her head, her diplomacy faltering. "It's admirable, Elena, staying independent. Have you considered PR, like Natalie? It's more stable." "Stability's overrated," I said, a hint of a smile playing on my lips. "My work's more impactful than that." The table went quiet, my confidence catching them off guard. Daniel, catching my eye, shifted uncomfortably. "Impactful how?" he asked, his tone cautious. His presence, once a comfort, now a betrayal, fueled my resolve. "Let's just say it's reaching a lot of people," I said, keeping it vague. I could have mentioned our 5 million users or the board meeting I'd led that morning, June 15th, approving the expansion. But timing was key. Natalie laughed, a sharp sound. "Reaching people? That's cute, Elena. Still chasing that tech dream." Her mockery was a knife, twisting the wound of her theft. Dad frowned, his voice firm. "Tech's a young man's game, Elena. You're 30, time to think about a real career. Natalie's set for life with Daniel." His words were a dismissal, reinforcing their narrative that I was the failure. Uncle Paul, Dad's brother, chimed in. "Maybe a job at Daniel's firm? They need admin support." Laughter rippled, each chuckle a brick in their wall of judgment. I took a sip of Chardonnay, its crispness grounding me. "I'm good where I am," I said, my tone cool. My phone buzzed, a message from Priya, my COO, expansion approved. Press release ready for Tuesday. I silenced it, the reminder of my reality sharpening my focus. The vineyard staff moved with quiet efficiency, one waiter, Javier, who'd worked with FlowSync on a logistics pilot, giving me a discreet nod. His recognition steadied me. The third course arrived, roasted duck with blackberry glaze, its presentation elegant. Natalie dominated the conversation, detailing wedding plans. 500 guests, a string quartet, a fireworks finale. "It's the event of the season," she said, beaming at Daniel. Mom nodded. "We've spared no expense. It's a Brooks tradition." Their pride was a stark contrast to their indifference toward me. Aunt Lydia leaned in, her voice low. "Elena, you must be proud of Natalie. Any plans for your own big day?" Her question was a dig, assuming I was alone and adrift. "I'm focused on my work," I said, my smile tight. Daniel coughed, avoiding my gaze, his guilt palpable. The table's pity grew, their assumptions a net closing in. Liam whispered, "They're clueless. Want me to drop a hint?" I shook my head subtly. "Not yet. Let them dig deeper." His grin was conspiratorial, a reminder of our shared journey. The duck was delicious, but it tasted like strategy, every bite a step closer to my moment. The wedding rehearsal was tomorrow, Monday, June 16th, and I knew the tension would peak there. As the meal ended, guests moved to the terrace for cocktails, the vineyard's lights twinkling against the dusk. I stayed seated, needing a breath. The estate's beauty, rows of grapevines, distant hills, was a stark backdrop to my turmoil. Memories flickered, coding with Liam, Daniel's proposal in 2020, his sudden breakup in 2021, Natalie's engagement announcement in 2024. I'd buried the pain in work, building FlowSync into a titan, but this wedding forced it back. Natalie approached, her gown rustling. "Elena, glad you're here," she said, her tone forced. "Daniel and I want no hard feelings." Her smile was a mask, her hand on his arm a claim. "No hard feelings," I echoed, my voice neutral. Daniel shifted. "It's been a while, Elena. You look successful." His compliment was a probe, testing my response. "I am," I said simply. "More than you know." My confidence rattled him, but he didn't press. Mom joined us, her voice smooth. "Elena, it's lovely to see you. Maybe after the wedding, you can join us for a family dinner." Her invitation was a token, assuming I'd linger in their shadow. "I'll consider it," I said, my smile guarded. The terrace buzzed with laughter, the wedding's grandeur a stark contrast to my isolation. Javier passed with a tray, his nod a silent ally. The rehearsal tomorrow would be a test, and I was ready to let their narrative unravel, one calculated step at a time. The Napa Valley vineyard buzzed with activity on Monday, June 16, 2025, at 10 a.m., the morning sun filtering through the vines as the wedding rehearsal began under a sprawling oak tree. I, Elena Brooks, 30, stood at the back of the gathered crowd, my black blazer crisp against the morning chill, my mind sharp despite the sleepless night. The wedding, set for tomorrow, June 17, was a spectacle, white chairs aligned, a floral arch in bloom, a string quartet tuning up. My sister Natalie's theft of Daniel, my ex-fiancé, still burned, and my parents, Margaret and Robert, had embraced her triumph while sidelining me. They remained oblivious to FlowSync, my billion-dollar tech firm, and I was letting their assumptions build, poised to unveil my success at the perfect moment. The rehearsal started with the officiant, a silver-haired man named Reverend Hayes, outlining the ceremony. Natalie, in a cream rehearsal dress, clung to Daniel, their smiles a public performance that twisted the knife in my gut. Mom directed the seating, her pearl necklace glinting as she fussed over the VIP rows. Dad oversaw the catering, his stern nod approving trays of canapés. The scene was a Brooks family triumph, and I was the outsider, a role I'd grown accustomed to but was ready to shed. Aunt Lydia approached, her voice laced with curiosity. "Elena, you're here early. Planning to catch the bouquet?" Her laugh was a taunt, assuming my single status was a failure. The crowd, cousins, family friends, turned, their eyes a mix of pity and amusement. I adjusted my blazer, meeting her gaze. "I'm here to support," I said, keeping my tone neutral. "That's all that matters." Thomas, my cousin, joined her, his venture capital smirk intact. "Support's nice, Elena, but what do you do these days? Still tinkering with tech?" His question was a jab, implying I was a hobbyist. Liam, my CTO and ally, stood nearby, his presence a quiet strength. I'd asked him to join the rehearsal to document FlowSync's latest metrics, unaware he'd become a witness to this tension. "I'm managing a project," I said, my voice steady. "It's taken off more than expected." The truth, FlowSync's AI integration had just secured a $200 million logistics deal, pushing our valuation to $1.9 billion, was a secret I guarded. Mom overheard, her diplomacy faltering. "A project? That's sweet, Elena. Maybe after the wedding, you can join Natalie's PR firm. It's a steady path." "Steady's not my style," I replied, a faint smile on my lips. "My work's making waves." The table from last night's dinner flashed in my mind, Natalie's mockery, Daniel's discomfort, but I pushed it aside, focusing on the present. Dad frowned, his voice firm. "Waves are fine, Elena, but at 30, you need roots. Natalie's set with Daniel." "Roots take time to grow," I said, my tone cryptic. Daniel shifted, his eyes meeting mine briefly before darting away. "Waves how?" he asked, his voice tentative. His presence, once a promise, now a betrayal, steeled my resolve. I could have mentioned our 5 million users or the board's approval yesterday, but I held back, letting their doubt deepen. Natalie laughed, a sharp sound cutting through the rehearsal's hum. Waves. Elena, you're dreaming again. Tech's a fluke. Look at Daniel's real success. Her words were a slap, her arm around him a claim. The crowd murmured, their pity growing. Uncle Paul chimed in. Maybe a role at Daniel's company? They need data analysts. Laughter rippled, each chuckle a weight on my shoulders. I took a sip from a water bottle, its coolness grounding me. I'm set where I am, I said, my voice cool. My phone buzzed, a message from Priya, my COO, AI rollout on track. Media briefing Tuesday at 2 p.m. I silenced it, the reminder of my reality sharpening my focus. Javier, a Vineyard staff member who'd worked with FlowSync's pilot program, passed with a tray, his nod a silent ally. His recognition bolstered me. The rehearsal progressed, with Natalie and Daniel practicing their vows, their words a public sealing of my private wound. Mom adjusted the floral arch, her voice bright. This will be stunning tomorrow, 500 guests, fireworks, the works. Dad nodded. A Brooks legacy moment. Their pride was a stark contrast to their indifference toward me, a dynamic I was poised to disrupt. Aunt Lydia leaned in, her tone probing. Elena, no date for the wedding? Maybe you'll meet someone here. Her assumption was a dig, implying my life was stagnant. I'm fine solo, I said, my smile tight. Daniel coughed, his guilt surfacing. The crowd's whispers grew, their narrative of me as the failed sister solidifying. Liam whispered, they're digging their grave. Ready to drop the bomb. I shook my head subtly. Not yet. Let them rehearse their judgment. His grin was conspiratorial, a nod to our shared strategy. The string quartet struck up a waltz, and Natalie and Daniel danced, their grace a performance that masked the betrayal. I watched, my mind on tomorrow's ceremony, where the tension would peak. As the rehearsal wrapped, guests moved to a shaded patio for a light lunch, quinoa salads and sparkling water. I stayed back, needing space. The vineyard's beauty, rows of grapes, distant mountains, was a stark backdrop to my turmoil. Memories flickered, coding with Liam in 2017, Daniel's proposal in 2020, his breakup in 2021, Natalie's engagement in 2024. I'd channeled the pain into FlowSync, but this wedding forced a reckoning. Natalie approached, her dress rustling. Elena, you're quiet, she said, her tone forced. No hard feelings, right? Her smile was a mask, her hand on Daniel's arm a claim. None, I lied, my voice neutral. Daniel shifted. Elena, you seem different. What's new? His probe was cautious, testing my strength. I've been busy, I said, meeting his gaze. You'll see tomorrow. My confidence rattled him, but he didn't press. Mom joined, her voice smooth. Elena, join us for the rehearsal dinner tonight. We'd love to catch up. Her invitation was a formality, assuming I'd fade into their narrative. I'll think about it, I said, my smile guarded. The patio buzzed with chatter, the wedding's grandeur a contrast to my isolation. Javier passed with a tray, his nod a quiet ally. The rehearsal had set the stage, and tomorrow's ceremony would be my moment to unveil the truth, one calculated step at a time. The Napa Valley vineyard shimmered under a perfect Tuesday sky, June 17, 2025, at 2 p.m., as the wedding ceremony unfolded beneath a grand floral arch. I, Elena Brooks, 30, stood at the edge of the 500-strong crowd, my black blazer a stark contrast to the pastel sea of guests, my heart pounding with a mix of anticipation and resolve. The string quartet played a delicate rendition of Pachelbel's canon, and my sister Natalie, radiant in a lace gown, stood beside Daniel, my ex-fiancé, their vows moments away. My parents, Margaret and Robert, beamed from the front row, their pride a crown for their golden child. They'd dismissed me as a failure, unaware I'd built FlowSync, a billion-dollar tech firm, and today during the reception at 3:30 p.m., I'd unveil my triumph, turning their narrative upside down. The ceremony was a spectacle. White chairs aligned, rose petals scattered, a breeze carrying the scent of grapes. Reverend Hayes officiated, his voice steady as Natalie and Daniel exchanged rings, their I do's a public sealing of my private wound. Mom dabbed her eyes, Dad nodded approvingly, their legacy secure in this union. I watched, my composure a mask, The pain of Daniel's 2021 breakup and Natalie's 2024 engagement fueling my silence. The crowd applauded as the couple kissed, and the procession moved to a lavish reception tent, its chandeliers glittering, tables set with crystal and gold. At 3:30 p.m., the reception began with a toast from Dad. To Natalie and Daniel, he said, raising a glass of champagne, a union that honors the Brooks name. The room cheered, but their eyes skipped me, a familiar exclusion. Natalie, glowing, took the microphone. "Thank you all," she said, her voice bright. "This day is perfect, thanks to my amazing family." Her smile didn't reach me, her triumph a reminder of my sidelining. The first dance followed, Natalie and Daniel waltzing to a slow ballad, their grace a performance that masked the betrayal. I stood near the back, Liam, my CTO, beside me, his tablet ready with FlowSync's latest data. I'd planned this moment for weeks, coordinating with Priya, my COO, for a live press release tied to the wedding's media coverage. The timing was deliberate. National outlets were here, drawn by the Brooks' social clout. Aunt Lydia approached, her tone smug. "Elena, you're a good sport, showing up. Any plans after this?" Her question was a dig, assuming my life was stagnant. The crowd's murmurs grew, their pity a weight. I adjusted my blazer, meeting her gaze. "I have something to share," I said, my voice carrying. "But it's for everyone." I stepped toward the stage, the microphone in hand, the room falling silent. Natalie frowned, Daniel tensed, Mom's smile faltered. "Thank you, Natalie, for inviting me," I began, my tone calm but firm. "This wedding's a celebration, but it's also a chance to set the record straight. For years, my family saw me as a dreamer, a failure chasing tech. They were wrong." Gasps rippled through the crowd, the shift palpable. Liam handed me his tablet, and I projected FlowSync's logo onto a screen behind the stage. "I'm the CEO of FlowSync," I said, a supply chain tech firm valued at $1.9 billion. Our AI integration, launched last month, secured a $200 million contract, and we're expanding globally. The room erupted, voices overlapping in shock and disbelief. Natalie's glass slipped, Daniel's jaw dropped, Mom's hand clutched her pearls. Thomas, my cousin, laughed, a harsh sound. $1.9 billion? Elena, that's a stretch. Prove it. Amelia, another cousin, nodded. Tech firms flop all the time. Where's the evidence? Their skepticism was a challenge, but I was prepared. Priya's voice crackled through a live feed on the screen. "This is Priya Sharma, COO of FlowSync. Our Q2 earnings report filed today confirms our valuation. Elena's led us to this." The screen displayed the report, revenue charts, user stats, a Forbes mention from last week. The crowd murmured, family friends whispering frantically. Dad's face was ashen. "Elena, this, how?" Mom's voice was a whisper. "Why didn't you tell us?" Natalie's eyes narrowed. "You let us think you were struggling. That's manipulative." "Manipulative?" I countered, stepping closer. "You stole my fiancé, Natalie, and you all cheered. You mocked my work, assumed I was broke. I wanted to see your true selves, and you showed me. This isn't manipulation, it's clarity." My words landed hard, shame flickering in her gaze. Daniel shifted, his voice low. "Elena, I didn't know. I'm sorry." "Sorry doesn't undo it," I said, meeting his eyes. "You chose her. I chose myself." The crowd gasped, the betrayal's depth sinking in. Liam whispered, "Nailed it." Javier, a staff member who'd worked with FlowSync, gave a discreet thumbs up from the bar, his support a boost. The press, seated near the stage, scribbled notes, cameras flashing. Dad stood, his voice strained. "Elena, this is remarkable. But a company that size needs guidance. We can help." His pivot was a grab for control, his pride wounded. Thomas nodded. "Yeah, we've got connections. Let's collaborate." Their offers were transparent, a bid to reclaim influence. I laughed, the sound sharp. "Help? FlowSync partners with Amazon, FedEx, and the World Bank. I don't need your connections." The room murmured, respect replacing pity. Amelia's face hardened. So you planned this for the wedding? That's cold. Cold. I replied. You planned a wedding with my ex. I planned a future without you. The crowd parted as a journalist approached. Ms. Brooks, can we get a statement for tech today? I nodded. FlowSync's mission is efficiency and equity. Today's just one milestone. The family watched, their narrative crumbling. Mom's tears fell, her voice breaking. Elena, we're family. Let's talk. Her plea was raw, but it came too late. Family doesn't exclude, I said. We'll talk, but on my terms, after the reception. I stepped down, Liam at my side. You're a legend, he whispered. Thanks, I said, the weight lifting. The press swarmed, but my focus was on my family, their shock a mirror to my journey. The reception continued, but the power had shifted, and I held the reins. The Napa Valley vineyard was bathed in the golden hues of late afternoon, Tuesday, June 17, 2025, at 5 p.m., as the wedding reception wound down under the glittering chandeliers of the tent. I, Elena Brooks, 30, stood near the edge of the dance floor, my black blazer unbuttoned, my breath steady after the storm of my FlowSync revelation. The air carried the faint sweetness of spilled champagne and the murmur of guests digesting the news that I, the family outcast, was the CEO of a $1.9 billion tech firm. Natalie's shocked silence, Daniel's guilt, Mom's tears, and Dad's strained composure painted a picture of a family unmoored. The press had scattered, their cameras capturing my triumph, but the real battle was personal, mending or severing ties, and I had to chart the course ahead. Javier, the vineyard staff member who'd supported me, approached with a glass of water. Ms. Brooks, that was epic, he said, his voice low. The team's buzzing about FlowSync. I took the glass, smiling faintly. Thanks, Javier. Your nod meant a lot. He grinned, his eyes bright. Just glad to see you shine. Need anything else? I shook my head. I'm good. Enjoy the night. He nodded and rejoined the crew, leaving me to face the aftermath. Mom was the first to approach, her pearl necklace askew, her face etched with regret. Elena, she said, her voice trembling, we need to talk. Please. Behind her, Dad, Natalie, and Daniel formed a hesitant cluster, their usual confidence replaced by uncertainty. Liam, my CTO, lingered nearby, his tablet tucked away, his presence a quiet anchor. The tent's elegance, crystal, gold, floral centerpieces, felt distant, the real focus on the family I'd appended. I gestured to a quiet corner, away from the lingering guests. Let's sit, I said, my tone neutral. They followed, their steps tentative, as if navigating a new terrain. We settled at a small table, the water glass between us, and I waited. Mom spoke first, her eyes wet. Elena, I had no idea. What you'd built. Why didn't you tell us? Her question carried a raw vulnerability, a shift from her earlier dismissal. Because you didn't believe in me, I said, my voice steady but not unkind. When I chose tech over your path, you cut me off. I built FlowSync to prove myself, not to you but to me. Keeping it secret was my shield. Mom flinched, her hand reaching for her pearls, a reflex of distress. Dad's face was lined, his voice gruff. We misjudged you, Elena. This company. It's extraordinary. We're proud. His words were an olive branch, but they tied to my success, not my struggle. Proud now, I said, meeting his gaze. But you weren't when I left Seattle. You valued Natalie's marriage, not my work. Natalie shifted, her wedding gown rustling. I didn't know about Daniel, Elena, she said, her voice low. He told me you'd moved on. I'm sorry. Her apology was tentative, her eyes avoiding mine. Sorry doesn't erase it, I replied. You took him knowing our history. That's on you. Daniel nodded, his voice shaky. I was wrong, Elena. I should have been honest. Can we talk? Later, I said, my tone firm. Not now. His guilt was real, but it didn't undo the past. Dad cleared his throat, his voice strained. Elena, this firm needs stability. Let us guide you, our network could help. His offer was a bid to reclaim influence, his pride wounded. I laughed, the sound sharp in the quiet corner. Guide me? FlowSync partners with global leaders, Amazon, FedEx, the UN. I don't need your network. The table fell silent, my independence a wall they couldn't breach. Natalie's face hardened. You planned this for my wedding? That's harsh. Harsh. I countered, leaning forward. You planned a wedding with my ex, flaunting it while mocking me. I waited to see if you'd respect me, not pity me. You didn't. This is clarity, not cruelty. My words struck home, shame flickering in her eyes. Liam whispered, they're reeling. You okay? I nodded, his support a lifeline. Mom's tears fell, her voice breaking. What do you want, Elena? We're here now. Let's fix this. Her desperation stirred mixed emotions. Anger at their betrayal, hope for reconciliation. I want respect, I said. Not for FlowSync, but for who I am, your daughter, who built something real. If you can't give that, we're done. Dad's voice softened, a rare vulnerability. I failed you, Elena. I saw your path as a risk, not a strength. Your work. It's a legacy. Let us try again. His admission was a crack in his armor, surprising me. I studied him, finding sincerity in his tired eyes. Trying means listening, I said. No more pity, no more control. Meet me as an equal. Natalie nodded, her voice small. I'll try, Elena. I want to understand FlowSync. Her offer was a bridge, fragile but sincere. Maybe, I said. We'll see. The moment was delicate, a foundation laid but not yet solid. I wasn't ready to forgive, but I was open to rebuilding. I'm free next Friday, I said, standing. A cafe in San Francisco, no wedding talk. Just us. Mom's face brightened. We'll be there, she promised. Daniel murmured agreement, his guilt lingering. They returned to the reception, their silhouettes fading into the crowd. I watched, the weight of their judgment lifting, replaced by a quiet strength. 2 weeks later, on Saturday, June 28, 2025, I sat in my San Francisco office, a modern space with views of the bay. My desk held a laptop, a TechCrunch cover with my face, and a photo of Liam from our early days. Priya popped in. AI rollouts a hit, $300 million in new contracts, she said, grinning. Celebrate tonight? I laughed. Definitely. My phone buzzed, a text from Mom. Cafe tomorrow? Bringing Liam. I smiled, typing perfect. The San Francisco meetings had been awkward but honest. Dad asked about AI logistics, stumbling over terms but curious. Natalie shared her PR struggles, a rare vulnerability. Daniel apologized again, his sincerity growing. Liam, invited as a neutral voice, bridged our worlds. It wasn't a fairy tale reunion, but it was a start. The wedding had changed me, not because of their reactions but because I'd claimed my worth. FlowSync wasn't just a company, it was my voice, my victory over betrayal. Their approval, once my anchor, was now secondary. I'd proven myself, not to them, but to the path I'd forged. Since the wedding, I'd launched a FlowSync internship for underprivileged coders. Every Wednesday, I mentored 10 teens, their enthusiasm echoing my own at 14. One, a 16-year-old named Aisha, coded a sustainability app, her talent raw but brilliant. You're going far, I told her, meaning it. Her grin was worth more than any Brooks toast. My phone buzzed again, a message from Natalie, saw your TechCrunch piece. Impressed. The words were simple, a step toward respect. I replied thanks. See you tomorrow. Healing was slow, built on gestures, not grand gestures. My family was evolving, not into my old dream, but into something real, flawed, and possible. I opened my laptop, a draft of a keynote for a tech summit on the screen. The title, Innovation Beyond Betrayal. I'd struggled to write it, the emotions too fresh. Now, the words flowed. 2 years ago, I lost my fiancé to my sister, I typed. Today, I lead a company that moves the world, not because I sought revenge, but because I trusted my vision. Success isn't given, it's claimed. I paused, gazing at the bay, the city alive beyond the glass. The wedding had been a crucible, forcing me to face my past and seize my future. I wasn't the failed sister or the betrayed fiancé. I was Elena Brooks, CEO, innovator, survivor. And that was enough. Have you ever turned a betrayal into your strength? Share your stories in the comments below. If this journey resonated, hit that like button and subscribe for more tales of resilience. Thank you for joining me, and remember, the greatest triumph is the one you build for yourself.